want to point out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I want to hope gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 488th edition of Energy Week with George Harvey and Tom Fennell. I'm sorry, Tom is not here. Tom is in the flesh at home.
I'm remotely in the flesh.
Remotely in the flesh. This is a show that is starting with news on Thursday, September 1st, which is a week ago today. And you can find it at my blog, geoharvey.com, or you can scroll down on the computer screen. You'll find a link to a WordPress site where you can just see the script that Tom and I are using, or you can download the article, and you can go from any of those sources to the originals.
Some of these original articles are very well written and in depth. They're worth following up on.
Yeah, they are.
If you've got the time, you know.
Yeah.
Because like I said, some of them are very long.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Should we just start, Tom?
Yeah, we got a picture of a house with solar panels on the roof.
We do indeed. And let me get that before everybody. That's an interesting looking house. I like these California houses. They have roofs over patios that have got nothing but open areas. So the sun just falls through, and so does the rain, presumably.
Well, they got it covered in this particular case.
Yeah. And they have funny, it looks like lattice work on the walls. Anyway, this is from Clean Technica, and you have a title.
10 big clean tech benefits in Inflation Reduction Act.
Yep, the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 has been the story of the quarter in the clean tech world. By that they mean the quarter of the year. It covers a wide array of topics. Solar power giant SunPower came up with a list of 10 things in the Inflation Reduction Act. I got to tell you, there's more than 10 things in it that can change your home and fill your wallet. And here is a look at them. And I'll bet you...
Well, I got a quick list of the 10.
Good.
The first 3 of them are 30% tax credits.
Yes.
Solar systems, energy storage technologies, and EV chargers.
Yeah.
The next one is special tax credits for home builders.
Yes.
$7,500 tax credit for electric vehicles.
Yep.
$8,000 rebate on heat pumps.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, now I want to point out, Tom, I want to point out to the our audience here that we have shifted from tax credits to rebates. For the next few things, they're rebates, not tax credits. So,
yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
So I said up to $7,500 for electric vehicles. That's a tax credit.
That's a tax credit, and the EV chargers.
Now we got a rebate of up to $8,000 for heat pumps.
And that's a big rebate toward the purchase of a heat pump.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
$1,750 rebate on heat pump water heaters.
Yes.
$840 rebate on electric stoves, cooktops, ranges, and ovens.
Yep.
$4,000 rebate on breaker box upgrades and up to $2,500 on electrical wiring.
Yeah.
And the final benefit, it doesn't have a number on it. It says, yes, cleaner air benefits us all.
Yeah. One thing I should point out about this is that there's a total that is the maximum that anybody can get out of this.
What's that total?
$14,000 for these rebates.
That ain't bad.
No, it's not. It's not bad. And, some of these things like the breaker box, that if you're going to put in a solar system and to get a tax credit on it, that breaker box can be important. So, there are a lot of things here that people might find very useful.
Well, looks like somebody did some thinking to come up with this list.
I have a feeling somebody did some thinking, yeah. Okay.
Well, let's move along here. We got a picture of a vineyard.
We do indeed. And there we go. This vineyard, by the way, that you see the picture of is not in the place the article is about, but, you know.
Well, the article says, and I quote, the Arctic Circle,
Yeah.
a new frontier for sustainable wine.
Yeah, who'd have ever thought? This is from the BBC. In recent years, heat waves, drought, and smoke from wildfires have been wreaking havoc on European vineyards. It is increasingly difficult to produce the same legacy wines that producers have been making for centuries. Now, there are vineyards in Sweden.
Who'd have thunk?
Who'd have thunk? You know, I mean, this is if the Vikings got to Sweden in today's age, they would have called it Vinland.
Are there any vineyards in Vermont?
Oh yeah, there are vineyards in Vermont and New Hampshire.
Okay.
Yeah, there are, and they use hybrid grapes in some of these things where they use the Native American grape, which tastes like Welch's grape juice. The Concord is of that type, and they cross that with the European grape, and they wind up having a grape that is more hardy than the European grapes, and that's basically one of the things that they have frequently in places like Vermont and New Hampshire. But in Vermont, you also have vineyards that do other things. You know, they have things in addition to grapes in some of the places. Okay, should we go on?
Yeah, we got another picture of an interesting building called the Menzies Hotel.
I think this is an interesting building, as you said.
Oh, it is.
It's just fun. It reminds me of the buildings you might see in the American West, except this is in the West, but it's in the Australian West. It's in Western Australia, in an area called Goldfields.
Uh-huh.
And this is the article comes from a publication called One Step Off the Grid.
Well, this is what they call it. Quote, Horizon Power secures land to take Goldfields Town to 100% renewables.
Yeah. Western Australia's regional utility, Horizon Power, is seeking to shift the northern Goldfields town of Menzies to 100% renewables. Menzies, and this is the important part of the synopsis here, I think. Menzies is one of 32 remote communities served by Horizon Power microgrids. Most of them are diesel powered, but now they're shifting from that to renewables, and that's going to be...
Well, that's interesting. That last sentence, say it again.
Yeah, they're going to shift from diesel power to renewables. And you know, diesel power means noise for one thing, and it means air pollution
and it
for another.
smells bad.
Oh, yeah, awful. Although I know people who try to put biodiesel in and say that it smells like French fries.
It does. I got a diesel car.
Yeah, I know. And I hate to tell you, Tom, but to me it smells like French fries that were made in burnt oil. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, let's move along.
Okay.
We got a picture of a nuclear power plant.
Yep, and we are up to Friday, September 2nd. Let me put that up so that people
Right,
can see
George
it.
Bush would have said a nuclear power plant.
Jimmy Carter would have said the same thing.
Yeah, you're right. And he were one.
Yeah, he knew what he was talking about. Okay, this is from the Eurasia Review, and what do you got for a title?
Russia's stranglehold on the world's nuclear power cycle.
Okay. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called on the international community to ban Russian nuclear technology. However, blocking and replacing nuclear exports of uranium reactors and nuclear technology to the rest of the world is easier said than done.
Well, it's pretty complicated.
It's some percentage. It's like 20% or something of, I forget the exact number, but it's a significant amount of the fuel used for American nuclear power plants comes from Russia, And another large percentage of it comes through Russia because it's being shipped from Kazakhstan. So
That ain't cool.
no, I mean, this is the nuclear power is Russia has got a dominating position on nuclear power, and the United States has got some designs that it's willing to help people install, but Chinese do too. So, there it is.
Let's move along. We got an interesting picture of an aeroplane.
An aeroplane. Let me put that up. That's a nice looking plane. This is from CNN.
Never in my life did I ever expect to see an electric airplane.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I never expected it until we started doing the show, to tell you the truth. Early on, we had that plane that flew around the world. That one that was solar powered.
I don't remember that.
They spent months flying the thing around the world.
Uh-huh.
There's, I forget the name of it. Solar Adventurer. I forget.
So they didn't have to come down to refuel. They could have stayed up all that whole period of time.
Well, they'd get tired, I think, and run out of food. But they flew from one place to another and did upkeep and stuff like that. But the plane was just flown on solar power, and it took months to get around the world. But when they took off with that thing, I was saying, how in the world are they going to cross the Pacific Ocean? But they did.
Well, let's read the title here.
Yeah.
Why electric airplanes are taking off at flight schools. And I got to add my own there. Why just flight schools?
Well, that's a good question. I think it is taking off at other places besides flight schools. But this is from CNN. Air travel has been slow to transition to clean energy, but the next generation of aviators need not wait for commercial airplanes to move away from fossil fuels. The Velis Electro, the world's only electric plane fully certified in the EU and UK.
That's going to change.
Yeah, it's going to change. It's taking off as greener option for trainee pilots. Now, Tom, we talked about Harbor Air, I think it was called. It's in Vancouver. It's a Canadian organization.
Yes, up in the Pacific Northwest.
And they were taking all of their 30 some odd airplanes and converting them to electric. And that was
air taxis.
Air taxis, that's right. They're really about the size of this thing that we've got up on the screen, but they were airplanes that were they had pontoons so they could land on water.
Uh-huh.
Which is really important in some parts of Canada.
Up there, yeah, it's all water.
Yeah.
But an interesting plane, an interesting looking plane. I wouldn't be surprised if the wing were not covered by solar panels.
I have no idea. It would be nice to see that.
No way of knowing, but
there were,
makes sense.
Yeah, there were a number of photographs of this, and I'm not sure that this photograph might not have come from the article. I might have gone to Pipistrel to get the photograph. So there you have it. Should we move on?
Yeah, let's move on to the next one here. We got a picture of, it's a graph.
It's a graph.
A graph of PV shipments.
Yeah.
And it looks like they are rising, doesn't it?
It does indeed. They were rising until 2016, 2017, 2018, and they fell. And that was mostly because of policies that Donald Trump introduced. And this article...
He wouldn't do a thing like that.
Nah. I'll tell you what he did. When he took over as president of the United States, there were 50,000 coal miners in the United States. When he left office, there were 35,000. 30% of the coal miners lost their jobs under Donald Trump, who dug coal.
That's interesting. That's exactly the opposite of conventional wisdom, I guess you'd call it. I
think so, but that's data that I got from the U.S. government.
I believe it.
While he was president, by the way, this was not History Revised. This article comes from Clean Technica.
Record numbers of solar panels were shipped in the U.S. during 2021.
Yeah. U.S. shipments of solar PV modules rose to a record electricity rating capacity of 28.8 million peak kilowatts in 2021 from the 21.8 million peak kilowatts in 2020 based on
That's
data.
significant.
It is. Oh, yeah. Based on data from our annual photovoltaic module shipments report. I wish these people in Washington would write titles that were simple. Solar module shipments were 80% of them were imports.
That's an interesting.
And of course, of those imports, the majority came from either directly or indirectly, they came from China.
I was just going to say, yep.
Yeah. So do you have more on that?
Not really. Let's move along.
Okay, let's do that.
Got a picture of an oil leak.
Yeah. All right. I have comments about this one, but go ahead and tell me what this is from BBC, and you have a title.
Russia to keep key gas pipeline to the EU closed.
Yes. Russia's gas pipeline to Germany will not reopen as planned on Saturday. That was last Saturday. State energy firm Gazprom has said the firm said it had found an oil leak in a turbine on the Nord Stream 1 pipeline, meaning that it would be closed indefinitely. And Moscow denies that it's using supplies as an economic weapon,
which is exactly what it's doing.
Yeah, but it's what it's saying is we need a part for this, and we can't get the part because Germany is not allowing these parts to be shipped to Russia. So
is that what they're saying?
That's what they said. And you know what? Look at that picture. Those are Roman letters on there, not Cyrillic. This is English or German, not Russian. And you can bet you this is a Gazprom image. I think they spilled the oil on purpose, and they put that image together to make it look like it was all the fault of somebody else.
Interesting.
Yeah, but they've been fooling around with this thing, promising the gas would turn on, saying that it wouldn't. And then
there's stuff going on over there that I can't begin to understand.
Yeah, well, I don't think they understand it. I don't think Vladimir Putin is all that bright, Tom.
You said that, and I think I agree with you.
Yeah. Okay, we've got an article coming up. Do you want to go to it? It's got a picture of your friend.
We got a picture of a woodchuck, huh?
No, it's not a woodchuck.
No, it's a beaver.
It's a beaver. Yeah.
It's a beaver.
It's Tom's friend. There it is.
Well, when I lived in Wardsboro,
yeah,
on the road, at the very top of the road to South Wardsboro, from Wardsboro Center,
yeah,
was a great big beaver dam, and it was fun to just sit there and watch the beavers doing their thing.
Oh, it's so amazing. There was a beaver dam that I saw a couple of years ago, more than a couple of years ago. I still had a car at the time. It was in New Hampshire, and I swear that dam must have been 70 yards across. And it reminded me of a thing that somebody said about beavers, which was, how do they know where to put that stuff they're taking to the dam so that it's so absolutely level all the way across? And somebody else said, they put it in at the level of the water. So there it is.
Well, according to the article, or the title of the article, It says, and I quote, beavers are considered valuable in the fight against climate change.
Yeah, this is from Green Matters, and it's something that I find really interesting. Scientists in Utah and California recently discovered that beavers are an important factor in the fight against climate change. Dams created by the rodents. I don't think of beavers as rodents. Do you, Tom?
I don't think of them, but they are.
Yeah. Help store the water longer. They fend off fires. This is an important thing as conditions are brought on by global warming. So they're setting up little fire breaks that, that's what a pond is. They're raising the water table which means that the vegetation is not as dry. There's huge benefits to these guys.
I'm looking at that picture of that guy. He's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Do you have more?
No, let's move on.
Okay. Our
next picture here of a big city coming up.
Well, this is Chicago and Lake Michigan. You know,
that's what it looks like to me, huh?
Yeah, this is from the World Economic Forum. I can't look at Chicago and pictures of Lake Michigan without thinking of childhood trips to the Field Museum and the Museum of Natural History and so forth, which are all near the lake. And you know, I forget the name of the planetarium. But they had all.
I don't know. I did all the same kind of stuff in New York City.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one thing.
Planetarium.
Yeah, one thing you didn't do in New York City. I'm pretty sure, Tom, in Chicago, you could take a tour of a Nazi submarine.
No, I did not take a tour of a Nazi submarine.
This was the U-505, which was captured by the U.S. Navy.
Although I did take a tour of a submarine, but it wasn't. It was our own.
Yeah, they also had it was the Silver Sides that was in Chicago, and I remember doing a tour of that. Yeah, they have those things all over. But anyway, this is from the World Economic Forum. So what do you got for a title?
Chicago to run civic operations on 100% renewables by 2026.
Right.
That's coming up pretty quick.
It is. The city of Chicago runs over 400 public buildings. City Hall and 2 international airports are just examples. After signing a 5-year clean energy deal with Constellation Energy, the city said that all of its facilities and operations will be run on renewable energy by 2025. That's
encouraging.
Yeah, it's not that far down the line.
Not at all.
Yeah. Okay, so we're up to Sunday, September 4th, unless you've got more to say about that.
No, I don't. Let's take a look at these guys.
Okay, let's do that. We have a picture of Joe Biden, and I don't know how to pronounce the name. Erdogan, I would guess.
Well, you don't pronounce the G. It's Erdogan.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you looked that up. In Irish, you pronounce the G unless there's an H after it.
Is that so?
I think so, but that happens in English too. GH is a funny combination.
Turkey offers to mediate in Ukraine nuclear plant standoff.
Yep. This is from the Kiev Post. Turkish President Erdogan, I think that's correct, offered to mediate in the standoff over the Russian-occupied Zaporizhzhia nuclear power station in Ukraine. The offer came hours before the UN nuclear watchdog said the facility lost its last remaining power line to the grid and is now relying on a reserve line. And
well, this is significant because it needs cooling.
Yeah, and it cannot supply its own power for cooling. And the reason for that is because these nuclear power plants are not flexible, and they will produce more electricity than their cooling stuff will be able to use. So they've got to get rid of all the rest of the electricity they've got. And if they don't have lines to send it off to someplace, they can get into serious trouble. So they need to have diesel backup for electricity in case they lose electricity. This is some people don't realize this, but these plants, if they lose power, can get dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they can blow up.
I think they can. So, do you have more on that, Tom, or should we go on?
No, I don't, but there was about 20 years ago, there was a nuclear plant that did blow up.
Well, there was Chernobyl, and there was also,
There we go.
And then there were plants in Japan, and the reactor buildings blew up. And honestly, I think one of those reactors blew up because one of them did a very different thing than the other two.
I was thinking of Chernobyl.
Yeah, that was, I don't remember the year.
Quite a while ago.
It was quite a while ago, yeah. It was almost 40 years ago. Okay, we have an article from Clean Technica. And
Well, we got a picture of a CalWave unit, and it's not it's not what it says it is. I don't know where you got that picture, but that thing is floating in air. It's not even connected to anything.
It's got cables.
You can. I was just going to say that you can see the cables.
That's the unit that's supposed to go out and be floating. That picture is from CalWave. But
last week we had a picture of a wave unit, and it looked exactly like it was supposed to look like.
Yes. Well,
this is a canal.
Yeah. Let's read the thing here. What do you got for a title?
Wave energy converter passes first test. Now it's off to Oregon.
Yeah. Last week, CalWave concluded a successful 10-month test of its X1, which is the name of the unit, at the site off the coast of San Diego. CalWave is ready for action and is moving off to other sites in Oregon and Alaska. It is also starting to look seriously at commercialization, possibly piggybacked with offshore wind power. So they could put these things near offshore wind turbines and use the electricity that they produce in those sites.
And the wiring's already there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the cables, if you want.
Yeah. Well,
let's move along here.
Okay.
We got a picture of Haiku.
This looks a lot like Chicago, doesn't it?
It looks very much like Chicago, yeah.
The one that we just had.
We don't generally think of China as being that developed, and it is.
Oh, you know, when I was a kid, China, you were talking about rice paddies and people in conical hats planting rice, and that's not the way China is anymore. It's
like you see in that picture.
Yeah, that's right. This is from Clean Technica. What's your title?
A Chinese province of over 9 million to ban fossil fuel car sales by 2030.
That's not
good for them.
Not that far away. Hainan. By the way, Hainan. If you look at a map of China, Hainan is the southernmost part of China. It's a big island. It's bigger than Vermont by, I think, half or more maybe. And it's
south of Michigan.
Yeah. Okay. Good. And it's it's kind of east of Vietnam. Hainan may not be a household name in the United States or Europe, but it's a province with more than 9 million people. By the way, Wikipedia says 10 million. The recent news out of Hainan is that the province is banning fossil fuel vehicle sales by 2030, and the target is one of the most aggressive out there.
Well, for what it's worth, California has 40 million people.
Okay.
Vermont has 625,000.
Yep. Population's a little denser in Hainan.
I would say.
But one of the things that the Chinese have got that is a big advantage in this conversion to EVs is that they have very inexpensive electric vehicles available, which we do not have in the United States. There are Chinese electric vehicles that are available, and these are cars, four-wheeled vehicles, with a roof and windows, and they cost $5,000. It's a base price.
That's amazing,
isn't it? They don't drive all that far, but they'll get you to your work and back, and probably give you the opportunity to stop at the grocery store on the way.
Well, for most people, most of the time, that's all they need.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So, should we move on?
Yeah, let's move along here. We got a very interesting picture of a tube train.
A tube train. Yeah, this article is worth looking at, and the pictures in the article are worth looking at. This is
This is the future.
Yeah, this is from CNN. And what do you got for a title?
Canada might be getting a 1,000 kilometer per hour vacuum tube train.
1,000 kilometers per hour is fast. That's 621 miles per hour.
Absolutely.
A Canadian company has unveiled plans for an electric train-style vehicle which could travel at 1,000 kilometers per hour, which is 621 miles per hour, and it claims would cost less than a plane ticket to travel on. The flux jet will be propelled at ultra-fast speeds along a protected tube guideway. So the train,
that's what the picture is.
yeah, the train is inside that tube, and it doesn't have wheels. It's got things that look like pads. I think it might be one of those levitating things where it's using magnetism to ride off the rails, but
It doesn't have an engine.
it does not have an engine. Interesting stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, this is a picture of the future.
yeah. So have you got more on that one?
I'm looking at. We got the speed.
Yeah.
No, you've heard what we got.
Okay. All right. So we're on to our next article, and we have a picture here of a battery, and this is from PV Magazine Australia.
Hydrogen bromide flow battery for large-scale renewable storage.
Yeah, Dutch startup Ellistor secured 30 million euros. By the way, a euro right now is worth almost exactly the same as a dollar.
Yeah, pretty close to $1 right now,
Yeah.
right?
In funding from a consortium of lenders led by Equinor, it will use funds to continue development as hydrogen bromide flow battery technology. Ellistor plans to build a gigawatt scale production facility. So,
What are gigawatts?
yeah, bigawatts. I can't believe I said that instead of you.
Well, they are.
Yeah, that's right. And I looked into the chemistry of this, and it's perplexing.
Is it?
Oh yeah, hydrogen bromide. That's easy. That's HBr, which means there's no numbers there, so it's one hydrogen and one bromine. And if you mix that with water, it gives you hydrobromic acid. But what happens in this is they've got hydrogen bromide, and when you charge it, I think it's when you charge it, it gives up hydrogen. And I thought, okay, how is it doing that? Well, it turns out that 3 hydrogen bromide molecules give up 2 of their hydrogen atoms to produce H2, and the rest of those molecules becomes HBr3. And I looked all over the place to find out what I could find out on HBr3. I could get a little bit of data on it, but I couldn't even find what it's called. I mean, this is weird. Hydrogen.
What do you mean?
Yeah, hydrogen bromide, by the way, is going to be. It's an acidic compound. If it gets into water, it makes hydrobromic acid. Hydrobromic acid is going to be very corrosive. The way hydrofluoric, hydrochloric, hydriodic, and hydriodic acid, I've had experience with. I've never had experience with hydrobromic, but hydriodic acid, I saw a guy put a chemical action into imbalance, which created hydriodic acid as he was stirring it with an electric stirrer that had a shaft that was stainless steel, 5/8 inch. That stainless steel 5/8 inch shaft dissolved in 10 minutes.
Wow.
This stuff is not something.
That's pretty strong stuff.
But the funny thing about it is, if you spill it on your skin, you got plenty of time to walk to the restroom and wash it off, because it doesn't do anything to your skin except turn it slightly brown.
Interesting.
You can stir this stuff with a wooden spoon, but don't stir it with a steel spoon because it'll just dissolve it.
Yeah.
Not even stainless steel. And I don't know what it would do to silver if you wanted to use a silver spoon. Anyway, you probably don't have more about that. Oh, one thing.
I don't have any more on it, no.
Yeah, the one thing about this is that it points out that these batteries are going to be super, super, super cheap to build.
Well, it's a flow battery, and of course, a flow battery is limited only by the size of the reservoir.
Yeah, but the thing about this is most flow batteries involve expensive chemicals. And expensive.
You don't have to.
Here you go. Bromine is not expensive. It's a cheap chemical. And it comes out of brine, but it's very easy to extract from the brine, and it's not expensive. So that's why they're looking at this. I mean, vanadium, which is most of the flow batteries are made with vanadium, and vanadium is expensive. So, okay, onward.
Let's move on.
Okay,
Interesting picture of a rooftop solar system.
That's what it is. This article is from Clean Technica, and I'll bet you know what the title is.
And I quote, Information Reduction Act.
Did you do that on purpose?
What?
Inflation Reduction Act. You said Information Reduction.
Oh, did I? No,
I think that's a perfect name for it. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
Inflation Reduction Act to give U.S. solar energy industry a much-needed boost.
Yeah.
Well, we've been hearing about this Inflation Reduction Act.
Well, it's worth a lot of money. The latest data from the U.S. Solar Energy Industries Association and Wood Mackenzie show a near leveling off of growth in solar power. But the forecast was based on the idea that the investment tax credit would start declining in 2024. And now it's going to be extended to 2032. So this Inflation Reduction Act is going to see a lot of solar panels put up.
Well, that's good news.
Yeah. You want to go on to Thwaites Glacier?
Might well can't dance.
Okay.
Nice picture of Thwaites.
I wonder if you noticed something about this picture. Do you see the ship in the lower left corner?
No.
It's there.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. That glacier is big. Now, this is what we're seeing here is not actually the glacier. It's a huge iceberg that calved off of it.
Well, one of the things that I've learned is that floating ice versus ice on land.
Yeah.
If you got floating ice and it melts, it does not raise the ocean.
Yeah.
But if it's ice cubes on land that melt, or ice on land melt, it does raise the ocean.
Yeah, and what happens is the ice that's floating on the water up against the ice on land is like a plug that's preventing that ice on land from moving into the sea and melting and raising the ocean. And and occasionally that plug disappears. And that's what's happening at Thwaites Glacier. You'd think that Mr. Thwaite or Mrs. Thwaite or Miss Thwaite or whoever would have come up with a name that was easier to figure out, wrap your tongue around.
Well, I knew someone with that name, and they called it Thwaites.
Oh, really? Okay. What do you have for a title for this?
Doomsday Glacier, which could raise sea level by several feet, is holding on by its fingernails.
Yeah. In Antarctica, Thwaites Glacier, whatever it's called the Doomsday Glacier, has the potential to rapidly retreat in coming years, scientists say, amplifying concerns over extreme sea level rise that would accompany its potential demise. And this thing, when we start talking about a couple of feet of sea level rise, we're talking about a whole bunch of places no longer being places where people can live.
Well, there's countries just going to disappear.
Yeah, Mar-a-Lago might disappear.
There's some ice, island nations that are just going to be history.
Yeah, and one of them is called New York City. I'm sorry, Manhattan.
New York City's going to take a bath, literally.
Yeah, and one of the problems that they've got is they're going to have to figure out how to keep all of this water not just off the streets, but out of the subway system.
Yeah.
And, there it is. So, should we...
You got to remember, the subways are underground.
Yeah, well, they are except at 125th Street.
Yeah, that's true. They come up.
You know why?
They go down again.
You know why they come up there?
Well, there's a valley going right through there.
There's a fault going through there.
A what?
Fault, a geological fault.
Oh, okay.
That's under
125th
Street. I used to be near the Myrtle Avenue L, and I'd hear it going by all night. But those were the good old days. Okay, our next item is from Clean Technica, and this is interesting. But go ahead and tell me what it says, Tom.
Renewable energy from local sources is the new thing in Europe.
Yeah.
And there's a nice picture of a cooperative solar plant. And by the way, this, I think, is a thing of the future.
I think it is, but it's kind of mind-boggling to me because this is happening all over the United States.
It's happening all over the world. People are getting together and building their own, basically, generating station.
But it's a new thing in Europe. I'm not sure why. And the Europeans were doing cooperative wind farms where the people in a village would put up a wind turbine at the village. Okay, there is a quiet revolution taking place that could significantly disrupt the utility industry. Communities in Europe are making plans to create their own electricity from renewable resources. It involves people managing their own supply of electricity. And as you said, I think this is the wave of the future.
Well, we'll be talking about it again as part of this show, these co-ops.
Yeah.
So let's move along and let's see if we can get closer to them.
Yeah.
A nice picture of what are these funny looking things?
I don't know.
Geez, I don't know. Look like windmills.
Maybe. Okay, this is from Triple Pundit.
Triple Pundit, it certainly is.
Yeah.
100% renewables energy systems could power the globe by 2050. I'm going to say that again.
Do it.
100% renewable energy systems could power the globe.
Yeah. A review from the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers analyzes over 600 peer-reviewed articles on 100% renewable energy. And the quote is, the main conclusion of most of these studies is that 100% renewables is feasible worldwide, and here's the important words, at low cost.
Amazing.
Isn't it?
Money talks.
Money talks, yeah. And this is something that, I've been seeing these systems coming for quite a while, and it's just like the cost is low. It's very, very low,
and it's going to keep going down. Well, that has slowed because it plummeted really.
It did, and we have, I've mentioned it before. Wright's law that says as things are put into the marketplace, new technology, the more you put in, the farther the price drops, and that's the sequence that we're in with solar, with wind, with batteries, and the cost of batteries has been going down over 20%.
Oh, absolutely.
Just
I've said it on a show before. We spent about 17 minutes talking about batteries in 4 years.
Yeah, and they're one of the hottest things out there now. I would bet that if you went back to school, you'd find that you could take multiple courses just in batteries.
Just in batteries, yep, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, we're on Wednesday, September 7th, and we have a very fuzzy picture, which I will put up, of a Sonova Network. And I'm sorry that picture is so fuzzy, but that's the best I could find.
Not your fault.
It's the best I could find. This comes from Clean Technica.
Renewable energy from local sources, California edition.
Yeah, Sonova announced that it has applied to the California PUC, the Public Utilities Commission, to develop a novel solar and storage, quote, micro utility, end quote. This innovative renewable energy platform allows residents, communities, and businesses to share excess clean power and, quote, island, end quote, the legacy from the legacy distribution system, which means that you could have, for example, a neighborhood, and the neighborhood has got its own solar panels, its own storage, and the people in that neighborhood are all paying into a cooperative through their electric meters, and the cooperative can interface with the public utility. What is the public utility that we keep talking about in California? PG&E.
PG&E, Pacific Gas and Electric.
Yes, that's right, PG&E. You could this micro utility could be talking, moving electricity back and forth constantly with PG&E. But if PG&E goes down for any reason, this guy will just keep going.
He keeps going. That's what they mean when they say island.
Yeah, and that is important when you're living in a time of droughts, which can, by the way, close down nuclear power plants, because the nuclear power plants need water to be cooled, and you have floods that shut down not just power plants but all kinds of things, and you have fires which burn electric lines. California's got a bunch of vulnerabilities, and with facilities like this, these micro utilities, they can keep going. Whatever. So,
it's a wave of the future, I think.
I think it is. You want to?
I think the days of very large generating stations owned by a few are over.
I think you're right. Yeah, we're going into distributed electricity.
Bingo.
And it's going to have profound effects on our economics and so forth. I think our economics might get more distributed, the whole thing. And I've been looking at people talking about the digital currency and stuff like that, and I'm sitting there saying, I'm not so sure this is going to work. But anyway, our next item is from Clean Technica, and we have a picture here of logging.
That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah. My guess is that the guy is the person who talks all the time, and the woman is the one who knows how to run a chainsaw. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about it. Wooden buildings could eliminate 106 billion tons of carbon emissions. And by the way, wooden buildings means something different than it did 20 years ago.
Yeah, well, it does. This is from Clean Technica. 106 billion, that's billion tons, gigatons of carbon emissions being eliminated. The Potsdam Institute of Climate Impact Research published a study in Nature Communications that says building future cities from engineered wood products could prevent 106 billion tons of carbon dioxide from entering the Earth's atmosphere by the year 2100. That's a lot.
Well, the key word there is engineered wood products, because you're seeing new forms of wood.
Yeah.
With basically elaborate plywood.
Yeah.
Talk about plywood beams and stuff like that. It's unheard of.
You remember those? We had two engineers come down from Bensonwood. Do you remember that? It was years and years ago, and they came in and told us about engineered lumber, and they had pictures that were just mind-blowing. I remember one of their pictures was a plank that my recollection was that it was 60 feet long and 8 feet wide and a foot thick. This is a plank of wood that was used to stiffen a building, and that plank was assembled out of multiple pieces of wood that were glued together, but it was a plank.
That's what it says. There's new forms of plywood.
New forms of plywood, yeah. And they showed an interior of, I think it was a cathedral with beams that were made out of wood, and it was just a fascinating thing to see. Anyway.
Well, the key word there is engineered wood products.
That's right. And they're using glues for these things that I don't particularly like these days, but I don't think that's going to last forever, because you can make some pretty good glues out of just wood. So we'll see how that works.
Well, let's take a picture of a farm here.
We have a picture of a farm, and this is from...
Looks like a farm to me.
It looks like it to me. This is from Clean Technica.
billions directed to food and agriculture is the largest since the Dust Bowl of the 1930s.
Yeah, and I think we should talk about the Information Reduction Act. I love that title, the Inflation Reduction Act. And the biggest climate bill the U.S. has ever passed also addresses, we talked about this earlier. I said there's more coming.
This is an important bill.
Yeah, it is. Addresses food and agriculture. Several areas of conservation, food protection, and financial insulation are for at-risk farmers have been bundled into the climate-friendly farm practices. And you know, the more I see what can be done on the farms, the stuff that's happened this summer is scary. Where we've had drought, we've had fires, we've had floods, and it's just gone on and on and on. Heat waves, which are still going on. But when I consider the simple technology, like those, do you remember those half moon shaped things that were called buns that were in Africa, and they dug these little things out that were maybe 15, 20 feet long, and
yeah.
They from above they looked like half moons, and you can restore the land with these things. And even in places where the annual rainfall is 9 inches, they're restoring the land. They're stopping the southward progression of the Sahara Desert, which has been going on for as long as I can remember. And you know, that's what they're doing. So what we're seeing here is a change in the I think what's going to happen is we're going to see changes in agriculture that result from this bill and other things that come along, and they can keep the agriculture going because people are starting to experiment with I think they're called key lines. First time I heard it, I thought somebody was talking about key lime and thinking that they were talking about key lime pie or something. But they talk about plowing the land or manipulating the land along these routes that go along on one altitude, except that they go downward slightly, and then they turn around, go the other way. And they just go down and down and down by going back and forth across the face of a hill. And the result of that is that instead of just running down the hill and disappearing, that's the end of that, the water that comes down in rain has got lots of opportunity to work its way into the water table.
So instead of going straight downhill, it's going back and forth.
That's right. And those buns, it's the same thing. And if you get into permaculture, they start talking about swales. And a swale is just basically a little ditch that goes along a hillside to catch the water coming down the hillside and trap it so that it turns into a little pond for a few days. And these are things that can have profound effects on, and we haven't even really begun to institute these things. And so,
we haven't begun at all. I mean, I think the future is going to be solar panels with farms running underneath them.
Yeah, that'll be part of it, I'm sure. And I
mean, you can't grow corn under the solar panel. I guess you can if you put them up high enough, but you can certainly grow potatoes and tomatoes and carrots and stuff like that.
Yeah. And there's a lot of stuff that you can grow under there. And there are some things, like herbs of various kinds, that would very much prefer not to be out in the open sunshine.
Well, I was just going to say, some of them they grow better.
Yeah. You know what we have in Brattleboro now is pawpaws. And pawpaws, one of the things that I read about pawpaws is if you're going to plant a pawpaw tree, make sure that this little seedling doesn't see the sun directly until it's at least 18 inches tall.
Oh, wow.
They don't like sunshine. They don't like. And there's a pawpaw tree growing on Elliott Street, and it grew up in the shadow of a house. It was relatively close to the house, and it grew on the north face of it. And now it's producing fruit, and you can buy pawpaws at a little bit later than this in the co-op. And by the way, our figs are producing figs that are quite edible, and I had a finger lime the other day, which is terrific.
These are things you're growing on your property.
Yeah, I own the finger limes and the macrot limes and the couple of other limes, and I take care of them. And in the winter, they're potted plants, so they come inside for the winter.
Oh, that's cool.
But we have figs, and we have Meyer lemons and blood oranges, and I don't know how many varieties. We have olives that are producing olives. Last year they made olives, but all the olives got stolen by squirrels.
They'll do that, won't they?
Well, who knew? Squirrels are crazy. Every time I see a squirrel, I always tell it the same thing, which is you are what you eat. Anyway, Tom, we're at the end of our...
That's the end of it, and I'm sorry to see it go.
Yeah, we had some fun this time, and we want to tell everybody to have a wildly successful week, and then we'll wave. I happen to know Tom. I know that he's waving at this very moment. We say what you say. You all come back now, you hear?
You all come back now, you hear?
That's right. I knew he was going to say that. See you later.
Adios.